Right, you lot, and welcome to the 7th part of this 12-part lyric breakdown series. We're in the second half now. So what I'm doing is I'm going through my entire album, the past, the present and future, and I'm kind of going lyric by lyric, breaking down the song, giving the meaning, and a lot of the time I diverge into a bigger discussion about bigger themes, and I feel like that's the thing that these lyrics take up. Like, I do waffle a bit in these, but that's what I kind of enjoy about it. So today I'm opening, I've lost my train of thought. I'm break down in the opening song of the album, Ashton, which is, it was the third single. It was a big song, and I really like Ashton as a track because I think it's a song that really thematically and sonically kind of sets up what you're in for with the album. Because I think a first song is so important on an album, because the first song is what is going to hook people, because you want to. People don't have attention spans these days. Like, look at TikTok. So you want to get, if the first song of an album is poor, I feel like a lot of people are going to drop off. Like, you don't want to put the best song at first, because that's a common mistake. One of the worst culprits I see of this is an act like One Direction, for example. If you listen to a One Direction album, all of the best songs, all of the hits that you know, are the first couple songs, and I think that's a bad idea, because you want to keep people involved and you don't want to start too good, but you want to start off with a track that sets up the sound of the album, gives you idea for the themes, and kind of tells you what you're going to expect, but it's also a solid track. And I feel like it's got to be one of the top 5 of the album, but not one of the top 3. And then that's how I like to do it. And then I like the more single-led tracks to be released. This is what I did. This was a single, so I know it doesn't really count, but the main 2 singles were track 3 and track 5, and I think those are good placements, and maybe a track 7 as well, if I were to do another single. So, yeah. Long Ashton was a song. It was an interesting one, because I don't say the title in the song, and Long Ashton, if you don't know, is a place. Sort of in Bristol, sort of not, and it was the first place I lived from pretty much until my 8th birthday, so pretty much 8 years, and it's all I knew in my life. Because I felt when you're young, your scope is very small, and you know where you live, your school, and that's about it. And I thought that was my world, was this small place. So I think it made sense to title a track, and this was an idea for a track that I wanted to do all the way, believe it or not, before Made Out Alive. So this is like early on. I was going to do an album called I Knew My Clients From My Beginning, what would have been a more EP based thing, and this was going to be one of the 7 or 8 tracks I had planned for it, but then of course I had a better idea of Made Out Alive, and I've gone over all this in the past. So this song of course also had a male feature, at least in the YouTube version. I'll kind of talk about the story there when we get to her verse, I think, because there's an interest there. But I do want to kind of get on with this, because I feel like I'm rambling this intro. But I feel like it needs a bit of explanation, because it's the big sort of opener. So, yeah. This song is very much, it's about, when you're young, I felt, and I say this in the video I did on the main channel, when you're young, I feel like that there's more margin for error in things that you do, and problems that you have are solved very easily. So I kind of, that thing of like, when you're a kid, the simplest things are your issues, and they're minute, but then when you get older, things get more complicated, and also stakes are higher, because you've got to, in the real world, you don't get second chances. If you fail. You don't get that kind of bubble wrap put around you forever, and one day you've got to step out, and it's a tale of reminiscing on that childhood nostalgia, but also making that step into the real world. So it incorporates the past, the present, and the future. So I think that's the interesting bit. So let's go on with the first verse. All mistakes only raised, before mistakes were given praise. Something went wrong, you were cradled, something to learn like a more on a fable. Can only be trained for so long before we beat the battleground, the past, present, the future, they all surround and try not to break down. I love that I put the album title in the first verse. I thought that's a clever thing to do. Get it? Because it's the album, like, that's kind of a fourth wall moment, which I like. yeah, it's kind of what I was talking about with the theme. So it's like all the stakes, things are only raising now because the reality check is that at school you're guided by kind of staff all the time. College, you're more left to your own devices. You're treated like an adult, and that adulthood. And I'm turning 17 in September, and then so that's like almost pretty much. Well, we're talking 13 months to I'm an adult, which is a bit bizarre, and I don't I don't like think about that. So, but it's like I like the moral line because it's like when you make a mistake when you're young, there's a learning curve there, and there is learning curves in adulthood, but it's not like you just get that cuddle, and it's like, oh, it's okay, we go again. I like the analogy of the battleground. It's like you've got to come of age, face it, and go for it. Okay, chorus. Now it feels that life is changing, set formalities rearranged, and I'm like a shrimp in a big sea, take me back to the shoulders of ministry. Yeah, it's that idea of like, you're now going to be an adult, but you're going to be one of the youngest adults. It's like, it reminds me of when you're year 6 and you're top of the school, and you think you're top of the world, and then you go to secondary school and you face a reality check where everyone's taller, bigger, and more scary than you. And then that whole situation happens again. You get to year 11, and then you go to college, and everyone is bigger, older, wiser, more mature than you. So it's like, and that's where you go in every element of life, all the way up to the old folks' home. You know what I mean? Although I guess the younger you are, the better there. So maybe that's the time when it finally kind of changes. It's like you wish you could go back to when things were easy. Like obviously I wouldn't want to be a child again now after I've lived through it, but like you do miss it. You do miss that. Before a sorry would heal the pain, but when you're older you can't remove those stains. Like I put up the nest, you take that. So it's like reiterating the point of like, yeah, if you make a mistake when you're older, there's a huge price. You can't just say sorry anymore. You go, and people fall apart, and you have to make big decisions. So. Okay, verse 2. Now the cover has been taken off. Exposed in reality, don't have a clue. Life before was stick to or held with glue, but the next step is all new. The little things that you don't deep will be swept off your feet. Parents will be there at some point after daycare. Have some. Did you want to make the choices that prioritise you, but there'll be a cost you can't do. Yeah, I felt when you're a kid, you take a lot of things for advantage, like bills, for example. Like you don't think about that thing, or like even like house around tasks, like. I don't know many 6-year-olds who are involved in the washing up or, laundry or any of those sort of things. So just little things that you don't think about become a huge thing. Like food, for example. I'm always been in a position, and I can't speak for a lot of kids. I know there's a lot of people that struggle, but I've always had food on the table. That's never been an issue. I've always pretty much got what I wanted within reason. And like birthdays, Christmas, but now you've got to work for those things, you know what I mean? And now the little things that were handed to you on silver platters before now are things you have to go out there and achieve, things you have to go out there and actually get. And it's like how you kind of dealing with that sort of thing. So yeah. And then there's also like people have to be cut off, and you have to make bold decisions older, and you have to prioritise yourself. And I feel like that's when falling apart and collapse and betrayals and all of that sort of stuff comes into fruition. Okay, then the chorus again, which is the same thing. So then we have Imelda, which I don't really feel like I can break it down because I feel like I don't know what she's going for, because obviously the lyrics, I'll read them out to you. Then after the tears of fear, oldies start to fade like family and photo. I mean, I'm not going to interpret her lines because I feel like that's a bit disrespectful because she wrote it, because I do perform it because I wanted to remain true to her bit. So, basically the whole story of why her birth was not in the final Long Ashton, at least the studio album, is very simple actually. We kind of started talking, and we're both singers, but she's never really had that kind of chance to actually do a song, release it and show it, and I wanted to show people A, how good she was, and B, give her that outlet to kind of express music. And I guess we did with the music video, but it was kind of this thing of like, she didn't have the recording utensils, and we couldn't meet up, you know what I mean, because it's complicated, because I work with Alfonso Archer, he works at my school, so it's like, how are we going to work around that? So I thought, if she just records it, and then we find a way to try and get that audio onto our thing and mix it in with the originals, it should work. And we tried, which we did I think the YouTube video, it sounds okay, like you can clearly make out what she's doing, and we worked out the vocal, but the restrictions and the way that the audio's got to be in a specific format, it's got to be of a certain quality, and it just didn't meet the standards, and we didn't really have time to find a way to get her into the studio to record it properly, and she wouldn't been able to do the sentences that I just, in the final version, did her verse, and kind of, you know, it was hard to do that, because I didn't want to disrespect the original. I wanted to stay true, and I feel like I was able to capture a lot of what she did with the original, but also putting my own twist on it and not doing a karaoke rendition. So I think it turned out okay in the end, but it's a shame she couldn't do that. And one day in the future, we'll definitely get in a studio and find a way to do something properly, because I feel like she's a talent, and I wish she got more on the song, to be honest. I feel like her verses, the way it was just kind of put out, because it was almost a last-minute addition, almost, to getting her on. It wasn't the original plan. I was writing this song, I was like, she's a childhood friend, I'm doing a song about childhood. It's a good match, and I thought it made sense, but yeah, so that's No Ashton. I feel like it's a very solid opener, because I feel like it's vague enough, and I feel like it stands at so like it gives you a good feel of the album, but it's not a major deep cut, so I think that is the important thing. So that is No Ashton. The next song I'm doing is Replicate, and I don't like the song Replicate very much, so that's going to be an interesting lyric breakdown to do. I mean, I've only got 4 more to do after that, which is quite crazy, so yeah, I'll see you lot soon, but